so stupid.
All right, it's time to close out the week. Thank God with something that might be even, well, I don't know if it could be any more funny than or funnier than what we've talked about in this hour in certain ways.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Brought to you by SlapStix Comedy Club. After this is over, I've got to run home and feed my dog, and then I'll be back down the street at Rogue Media Network doing improv with the SlapStix crew. There might be some tickets still available. Go to slapstixcomedy.com. The show's at 8 o'clock, so you got about 2 hours to do it. All right, top 5 sports documentaries, because we're producing one here at SicEm365. And I thought that, just give people some suggestions on good sports documentaries to watch. Number 5, Armstrong, feel free to comment on these as well if you've seen them. I know you've seen this one, Free Solo. Craig, have you seen Free Solo? Highly recommend this movie.
No, it's on my... It's on one of my streaming watch lists, but I haven't got around to it.
Smokey, you would like this one. This is about a dude.
Is that the girl that was the goaltender for the U.S.?
No, that's Hope Solo.
Okay.
No, Free Solo is this guy, and he's like a free solo rock climber. Like, he just climbs mountains without ropes.
All right.
That's what he does.
I would never be able to do that.
Yeah, this is the same person you're talking to, Paul, who had to bite on a towel driving up Pikes Peak. But now, granted, it was a scary drive because there's nothing on the side of the entire mountain. But he doesn't do heights well, is my point.
But I was going to jump out of an airplane in a parachute.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense.
Free Solo. Armstrong, you're a fan of Free Solo.
I'm a huge fan of Free Solo, especially because the documentary crew becomes part of the story because they become so concerned about him making this climb. They're talking to each other behind the scenes this guy's gonna die, and so the documentary camera crew becomes characters in the movie. It's really cool.
No kidding. Okay. It might even pique my interest in it.
I just think Armstrong's trying to push the people behind the camera to the front of the camera.
Yes, exactly.
Number 4, and there's a couple 30 for 30s on this one, but Pony Excess.
Yep.
Especially if you were alive. I mean, if you know what happened with SMU and the scandal there, and our friend Dale Hansen, who we had on the show, I guess it's been about almost a month ago now, but he was a huge part of that one. And also, that one was just cool for me because you get to see guys like Randy Galloway and all that talking about that at the time. And
they did a good job with that. I want to say that they kind of ruined the 30 for 30 for me. They put too many of them out. It used to be kind of a unique thing, and then it's almost like they started having so many on, now it's airing on ESPN2. And it's I lost track of them.
Yeah.
But this was when this one came out, they were still very, they were important and they mattered, and people were like, "Ooh, the new 30 for 30." But now I don't hear talk about 30 for 30s hardly ever, ever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that too much too quick, but that was when it was really hitting its stride. The 30 for 30 mania was stories like Pony Excess for sure.
Number 3, When We Were Kings. This one's about Muhammad Ali. It is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I cannot describe to you if you don't like Muhammad Ali, if you like Muhammad Ali, if it just the way that they did this and cut together Muhammad Ali saying, I hit the light switch and got in bed before the room got dark, and then cut it in with the fights. It is so amazingly well done and gives you a perspective on Muhammad Ali. I mean, it's 1996 when they made it, so I think something in 1996 that maybe a lot of people needed to hear about Muhammad Ali.
I'll say this. I don't know if anyone growing up hated him more than I did because of 2 reasons. I was a Joe Frazier fan, and as a military kid, what he did or what he wanted or what he dodged the draft, whatever it was, as a young, I couldn't understand that. But like a lot of things, as you get older, you start to learn a little bit more. There's some that no matter what will always hate Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali, no matter whatever you tell them. But I got to read more up about him, and I saw some of the documentaries with he and Frazier. And even though I think they both still would want to beat the hell out of each other, and you're still fighting up in heaven, I did mellow on how I felt about him.
No, he did very important work. He made a massive, massive difference. And you may not have liked some of the arrogance that he had, but you're probably somebody like myself who just doesn't really vibe with arrogance anyways. But that might turn you away. But it's actually what he said is what you have to listen to. You got to get past these stereotypes or these. I don't like that about this person, so I'm not going to listen to anything that they have to say. If you did that, you missed out on supreme education from Muhammad Ali in many cases, and eye-opening things. So, I know that there's guys nowadays that do things, but like the Bill Russells, the Muhammad Alis, that's the guys that we need around right now. And fortunately, Bill Russell's still around, but not as impactful as he, was back then during the civil rights movement. Instead, we get LeBron popping off and saying dumb stuff on Twitter, and I just hate that.
Yeah. All right, number 2, the U. There are 2 parts to this, but the original, the U part, but the U about the University of Miami and what they did in the 80s and early 90s and how they built that thing, even for someone who watched a lot of it, very sad because of some missed field goals. But it is so well done, and here's the thing about it that I didn't think was possible. It made me not hate those guys.
Really?
I mean, as a fan, it made me. You kind of respect the game a little bit. It just, all of a sudden, I felt like I'm watching Ocean's 11 and rooting for the crooks.
They're so ahead of their time.
I mean, it's just how it was. And I just thought it was really well done. And the fact that everybody who participated in it was unabashed about saying, yes, we were taking money.
Yeah.
Yes, we were doing this. Yes, we thought we were better than everybody else. I kind of found that refreshing.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, number 1 just came out last year.
Yeah.
The Last Dance. And again, good documentaries where people are, honest and open. And Michael Jordan's a person you never hear much from because he doesn't need to say much. But him telling the story and the other people around it telling the story, I thought was fascinating. I think most people who watched it thought The Last Dance was fascinating. We did segments on it on our show every week last year because it was that interesting, getting Will Perdue and one of the guys from the front office and all that on the show because it was absolutely fascinating what was going on there. And there may never be another thing like that, ever. Another run with a team like that.
I couldn't wait to watch it, and then I couldn't stop watching it. Because sometimes you want to watch something so badly, and you can't wait for it to get there. Then it gets here, and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, there's, you could do one on the Patriots because they would be as similar to a run as the Bulls had. Because outside of that, the Spurs have really come the close. The early 2000s Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, but those are more interesting kind of just individually or just that relationship in particular rather than the team. So, yeah, those Bulls teams, they're kind of, the last of their kind in some ways. And I know the Pistons won a couple and the Spurs won 3 and the Lakers were, there was all these other teams that won a bunch of titles after that. But that was and that was right before everything just kind of changed and the landscape sort of shifted in sports in general. That was a different time, to be sure.
And I'll say this. If they did one of the Patriots, I think Tom Brady would be very candid. I think the players would be very candid. Yeah. But if you compare Phil Jackson's candidness to what Bill Belichick would do, I don't think it would be as entertaining.
You know what? There's one, I know we got to go. Bill Belichick sat down with Bill Parcells in an empty room one time, and they talked back and forth about a lot of things. And, Belichick at times, I think, was brought to tears and was choked up a little bit.
Yeah, the 2 Bills, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good...
it's a good one, too, yeah.
I'll give a special shout-out to one of my favorite sports documentaries. I think it was the first one I ever watched, actually. It was many years ago. I don't know how it still holds up, but it was fascinating at the time. It was Hoop Dreams.
Oh, yeah. I almost put it on the list.
It's outdated somewhat now because recruiting's a little different with, the internet and everything, but, man, it's fascinating stuff.
For Hayden, Bumpus, for Emma, and also